Things in South Africa that don't really make sense, but also make a lot of sense. Number one is penguins, because what on earth are they doing so far from their Arctic brethren? And how are they not overheating and melting here? Based on what I saw in Happy Feet, these adorable little goobers should probably all be unalive. Number two is these white bus vans that don't abide by road rules and are pretty scary to drive in or drive near, but apparently they transport most of the labor force, so I guess that breaks even in the end. Number three is KFC and McDonald's being all over the place, because I don't know how they convinced South Africans that their food tastes even halfway decent, but apparently they've created a lot of jobs, so that's a plus. Number four is that I've seen multiple public restrooms asking people not to drink water out of the toilet, which seems very unnecessary. Lastly is white people giving me bombastic side-eye in certain places, because this is Africa and I'm black, so you don't have a right to make me feel weird.
If this biltong isn't good, I'm crashing out. If it's not good, I'm crashing out, because it cost me $9. That's like 165 Rand for 56 grams of biltong. If it's not good, I'm crashing out. The smell, it smells like jerky. It doesn't smell like biltong. That's what we're working with. I'm not okay.
Things in South Africa that make a lot of sense. First, the pharmacies. South African pharmacies are very efficient. You can even access routine STI testing at the South African pharmacy through walk-in appointments at a super low cost. More pharmacy products were accessible without a prescription compared to the United States, and when I had an allergic reaction to too many mosquito bites, the pharmacists I met there were super helpful. The second thing about South Africa that just makes sense is the biltong. I never thought I would be a fan of dried meat, but South African biltong actually tastes incredibly good, and it's a high protein snack. So as this advertisement says, biltong is healthy. They even sell biltong sourdough bread. Number three, the grocery stores in South Africa are often inside of the shopping malls. This is super convenient, and I feel like back home in the States, the grocery store is always close to a mall, but the malls in South Africa have an entire grocery store inside of the shopping complex. Lastly, one of my favorite random things about South Africa is that the nail salons will do your nails without the drill. Thank you. Nail techs who know how to give a manicure without drilling down your nails to crumbs are much appreciated. Most nail techs in Los Angeles refuse to do my nails without the drill, so getting them done in Cape Town was just so much better. I spent a lot of time last year in Cape Town, so let me know in the comments if you want another video on the lovely differences. Follow for more insights from a neurodivergent traveler exploring our beautiful, unexpected world. South Africans are built different, and here's why. So I was at the club last weekend, and this person was trying to get my attention and said something to me, and I said, pardon? And then they said something again, and I said, I'm sorry, I still don't understand. And then they switched to English, and they said, you should really speak your mother tongue, you know that? And I guess they assumed that I was Xhosa, and I was like, my mother tongue is English, and they were like, that doesn't even make sense. And I was like, well, yeah, because I'm from the United States. So even after being snarky with me, this dude tries to shoot his shot. And one thing about South Africans, I feel like African men in general, is they're gonna shoot their shot no matter what. And so he's like, oh, you're actually really pretty, da 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 da, and starts the whole chit-chatting. Okay. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, thanks. I appreciate the compliment, but I have a boyfriend, so thanks. And then he's like, what boyfriend? Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, my boyfriend's right there. Like, I have a boyfriend. He's right there. And he's like, where is the boyfriend? Where is the boy? He's like trying to argue with me about whether or not I have a boyfriend, which is also kind of crazy, because even if I'm lying to you about having a boyfriend, it still means I don't want to talk to you. But he's like, where's the boyfriend? Where's the boyfriend? And I point to my boyfriend, like trying to order a drink, and he sees the boyfriend, and he's like, oh, but can I still have your number though? 3 things about South Africa I hope stay exactly the same. Number 1 is the food. You can find food in South Africa from all over the world. I could make 100 different food videos on just Cape Town alone. The food I had in Joburg was also good. I just didn't have my head screwed on straight in Josie, so I can't remember what the actual restaurants were called. I didn't think I would like dehydrated meat, but the biltong actually grew on me, you guys. In addition to things like pap and sausage, foods from South Africa, I also got to try Portuguese food, Korean food, Vietnamese food, Japanese food in Cape Town. Second thing about South Africa that I hope stays exactly the same because it's amazing is the wildlife. I'm primarily a solo traveling girly, so I booked a joiner trip and joined some strangers and got to go on a game drive in South Africa. I also got to do wildlife excursions in Tanzania in the past, and I would say the one big unique factor with South Africa is the South African penguin. Like, unless you book one of the cruises to Antarctica, which cost upwards of $7,000, South Africa would be the place to see penguins in their natural habitat. The third amazing thing about South Africa that I hope stays exactly the same would have to be the people. Whether it was people I would meet out during nightlife or a barista or a tourism professional, I just feel like the South African people that I interacted with are joy-driven. They are on vibes, they love relaxing, they love food, and they just naturally seem to want to be happy. Follow along for more genuine, unfiltered insights on the travel destinations of the world. Did you know some penguins don't live in the Arctic? Yeah, I'm chilling with some penguins and I'm not in a snowsuit. Internet, meet the South African penguin, the sweetest little goobers that I traveled 24 hours to see. I learned so much about these little guys in just a single visit to Boulders Beach in Cape Town, South Africa. I randomly discovered this non-Arctic type of penguin while trying to brainstorm where I wanted to solo travel at the end of February. A travel activity booking website featured these good boys on their homepage. I did some research and found out that the dates fell within their mating season, February through April, and 2 weeks later, I was in Cape Town on a trip that changed my life. Buckle in for some incredible views, intimate insights, and the beauty of nature, one of my absolute favorite benefits of traveling.
Look at that little guy. He's the cutest patootis.
So happy you're here. Follow for more. Is South Africa safe? No matter how I answer this question, someone somewhere will be upset by my answer. To answer this question in one word, I would say no. To answer in 3 words, I would say yes and no. I'm an extremely honest person and I do not believe in lying. So let's use data and my personal experience as a female solo traveler to talk about safety in South Africa. My first step when I choose a new travel destination is to go on the United States Department of State Travel Advisory website. This is not a perfect judge of what safety means, but it does influence how my experience might be in a foreign country as a US passport holder. For example, if I'm planning travel in a country where Americans are generally disliked, then this US Department of State website will tell me that. According to the United States Department of State, South Africa is ranked level 2 due to violent crime. I wouldn't be too alarmed about a nation being ranked as level 2, and I think you should always read more on the details while you plan a trip. Some of the most popular travel destinations in the world are ranked level 2 on the United States Department of State website. Next, to figure out safety in a new country, I will try to read 5 to 10 reputable sources on safety in that nation. For example, on the Canadian government's travel website, they actually recommend a higher degree of caution for South Africa. Again, this still does not mean you cannot plan a trip there, it just means to apply caution. Applying caution might mean not going out at night alone. Applying caution might mean having most trips scheduled through a travel agency or a private guide. It can look different in different destinations. According to the Global Peace Index in 2023, South Africa ranked 126th out of 163 countries in terms of safety, which, to be honest, is not an amazing safety score. I traveled to South Africa 3 times, but I mostly stayed in Cape Town. Based on my conversations with locals, this is my understanding. South Africa is not ranked very high in terms of safety on a global scale, and there are a lot of areas where crime, including gender-based violence, is extremely common. But I traveled to South Africa on my own as a young woman, and I felt generally safe in the areas where I spent the most time. South Africa is an incredible country with so many amazing experiences to be had. When making the decision about whether to visit, I say do your research, just like anywhere in the world. If you were specifically asking me about being a solo traveler there, I would say that South Africa is probably a destination best for group or partner travel, especially if you do not look like you could be from there. I have so much more I can say on this topic, so let me know in the comments if you would like a long-form video on safety tips in some of the countries where I have solo traveled. Follow this page and turn on notifications if you like detailed, honest insights on the people, places, and wildlife of the world. I'm so happy you're here. Cape Town still feels like a second home, but I just saw a video where a local South African was begging foreigners to stop visiting Cape Town, and she's not wrong. I spent a quarter of 2024 in Cape Town, and I could not recommend the travel destination more. Cape Town is a city with something for every traveler. Wildlife, adventure, culinary arts, nightlife, you name it, they have it. But with the increase in tourism, prices have apparently gone up, according to locals, and there needs to be a better effort to ensure that the tourism boom ends up helping everyday people have a higher quality of life as well. Locals should enjoy some benefit of their city becoming one of the world's most popular destinations. Since we're talking about travel safety, let me tell you about this robbery that happened to some people traveling in Joburg. First of all, luckily the people, it was not me, it was just these folks that I know. So I met these guys traveling in Cape Town. They were coming down from London, United Kingdom, and they were traveling from Cape Town to Joburg, and they were out at the club. I feel like any good travel story starts out with they were at the club. Had gone out with them the night before, but then this particular night where they were robbed, I stayed home. Maybe I stayed home because the higher power in heaven. No, I'm kidding. I stayed home because I'm just not somebody who's likely gonna go out twice in a row. I don't see why the club would need to see me every single day. It's just not an everyday type of activity to me. It's not an every week activity to me. It's not even an every month activity to me. I haven't been to a club in over 6 months and I'm doing just fine. They were every night we at the club while we're traveling type of people. So they were at the club and they were feeling really good about themselves. They were feeling confident and they had done some sort of like financial transaction in cash and had a lot of cash on hand that day. Why would you bring a lot of cash to the club? I don't know. I'm not a big clubbing person. If I do go to the club, I would just bring my credit card because if that credit card is stolen, you go into the app, you freeze the card, or you call the bank, you freeze the card, bim bam boom, done. But they brought a lot of cash to the club that day. They not only brought cash to the club with them, these are my rands. I accidentally overpacked rands. They brought the cash out and were waving it around, flexing, whatever, trying to attract babes. So they're trying to attract babes. They've got their, of course it was more than this, but this is all I have. Broke life. They got their rands, they're waving it around, they're having a good time at the club. So they meet some girls who they continue on with after they leave the club. These girls then tell them, we wanna go get pizza. Like, let's go to this pizza place. The girls have a specific pizza place in mind that they want these foreign guys who are traveling down to Joburg to drive to. You guys are smart people, so you already understand the rest of the story. You're smart people, you're not drunk, you're not waving your money around in the club, and so you already understand the rest of the story and what's about to happen. You met some people you don't know, you put them in a car with you, and they're telling you, let's redirect, let's go to this pizza place at like 3 a.m. or something, or 4 a.m. They pull up to the pizza place, somebody puts it to their head, and it's like, take off the watch, give me the money, da-da-da-da-da. Everything they had on them was stolen that night. Fortunately, they were safe, but I feel like the very obvious moral to the story, no matter where you are in the world, this shouldn't even be travel advice, this should just be common sense. Don't do at the club. No, that's crazy. I can't imagine anybody doing that in New York and not having the same thing happen to them, or somebody doing that in Los Angeles or London and not having the same thing happen to them. But I think sometimes when people travel, they have this feeling like invincibility where they're in a new place, they're feeling hot, whatever, maybe their currency kind of stretches further in the local environment and they get a little bit silly. So that's our travel safety tip of the day. Don't do it. No cash at the club. I love how English in one country is not the same as English in the next country. I was getting my hair cut in Cape Town and I had no idea what my barber was saying at the end.
And you can put in Instagram, we are waiting comments for people. Okay. If there says a barber is not professional, me, I will design this job. Okay,
thank you.
Okay.
But somehow I understood him perfectly. I don't know if this is a PSA for American travelers or just people who travel in general. You don't have to travel the world as though everybody is out to get you. I have visited 26 countries now, and anytime I come back from a country, people always ask me, how could you go to XYZ place alone? Some people write off entire sections of the world. Like, I definitely have met people who are surprised that I've visited African countries alone and that I visited Middle Eastern countries alone. And so I don't know if this is a Western thing. I just came back from Cape Town, South Africa, and I had an amazing time and I met lots of locals just by being open to like doing activities with people I had never met before. So how much I spend on food in a day in Cape Town. So my boyfriend woke me up late this morning and I had to choose between showering or eating breakfast. So obviously I chose the former. But for breakfast, he made us bacon and scrambled eggs wraps, which costed about $1.39. I ended up just eating a plum though, so the plum costed about 30 cents. Lunch was great, but we got a bottle of wine, so it was way more expensive than it needed to be. I had kofta as an appetizer and then hot smoked salmon pasta and half of my boyfriend's meat lover's pizza. Lunch came out to exactly 500 Rand per person with tip, so about $27.89 at today's conversion rate. I wasn't hungry after such a big lunch, so I had some green tea, then coconut yogurt with blueberries. The coconut yogurt with blueberries came out to $2.93. I can only brush my teeth with bottled water and obviously can only drink bottled water, so that daily total came out to about 13 cents. Total food expenses for the day was $32.64, including the American maple syrup from Trader Joe's. When I first traveled to South Africa, I was turning heads, and not because I'm beautiful. When I planned my first impromptu solo trip to Cape Town, I was on a mission, and not just the mission to see the penguins. My second Cape Town mission was to support Indigenous African businesses with my tourism. I didn't know a lot about South African history before getting there, but I did know here is an Indigenous population in the world that has suffered. And I thought, how can I make my travels to this place just a little bit more intentional? So I did my research, y'all. And I came up with my own list of Black-owned businesses in Cape Town. But at least through looking on the internet, making this list was actually really hard. I found a Black-owned hotel, I found a Black-owned coffee shop, Black-owned restaurant. I couldn't seem to find a Black-owned bookstore, but I really did my big one and I came up with this whole list. This thought kept coming up in my mind though of how can I be heading to a country on the African continent where Black people are Indigenous, right? But where I can't seem to find a lot of Black-owned businesses. Like I didn't understand. And then at first I decided, let me not dwell on this too much. Perhaps because the majority of the population is Black, it's not maybe as rare or special as it is in the United States to be a Black-owned business. Maybe they just have so many Black-owned businesses in South Africa that they're not putting the same label on it that, you know, maybe we've been doing in the States, especially since 2020 and the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement. I thought after I land, I'll just ask around. And of course, then I'll be able to find the Black-owned businesses in Cape Town. Wrong. In the United States, 14%, 1/4 of the population is Black. In South Africa, 80% of the population is Black. But it felt even more difficult there to locate and support Black-owned businesses. So when I first visited Cape Town, people would turn heads and kind of look at me funny when I asked in a certain shop, like, oh, is this Black-owned? Is this Indigenous owned? Is this African owned? I remember that I was in a shopping mall and it said African owned outside on the jewelry. And so I went in and asked the shopkeeper, like, oh, is the owner Black? And they were like, no. I don't know if the solution includes subsidies or grant funding for Black entrepreneurs, but something definitely needs to change. If you know of Black-owned businesses in Cape Town, definitely mention them in the comments. If you like travel stories that teach you something about the world, then follow this page, Integrative Travel, for more. As promised, here is a detailed view on delicious food options in Cape Town. This is a restaurant called Swan Cafe in District 6 near the Cape Town City Center. Swan Cafe serves this salty pancake known as a galette that originates in Western France. I actually used to live in this region of France when I was just a 16-year-old teenager, so having galettes made with what they call black flour was such a homey meal for me and reminded me of my childhood. These are light dishes that cost about 200 Rand, so I think it's a price point where the spot should be reserved more for special occasions unless you're stopping by to grab a coffee and do some work on their free Wi-Fi. The food was so good though that I came back at least 3 times while living in Cape Town. Save this post for Cape Town Food Inspo and follow this page for more detailed insights on the gorgeous places, people, and wildlife of the world. What do Cape Townians want before they go? This Cape Town interactive art exhibit taught me a lot about the locals. This art exhibit was located in the Cape Quarter Shopping Center in the De Waterkant neighborhood of Cape Town. They installed giant chalkboards and left colorful chalk available for people to answer the prompt, "Before I die, I want to." As a foreign traveler visiting Cape Town for the first time, I was super excited to see this exhibit. When I travel, I try to learn more about the local people, places, history, and wildlife of an environment. So this interactive exhibit offered the perfect chance to get a closer look into the minds of some of the locals. Comment below what you would write if you were in Cape Town with me with the chalk. This was my first week in Cape Town and I realized that South Africans are way too real because some of these answers were hilarious. But there were also really cool serious answers too, like free Biafra or end capitalism. Some people put end racism. A lot of responses were about love. And it seems like a lot of people want to travel the world. This interactive art reminded me how much so many of us are very alike. For more detailed insights on the amazing people, places, and wildlife of the world, follow this page for more.
South Africans are actually too funny. I kept seeing this comment coming up in my comment section of videos in South Africa, where I traveled like several times last year. I stayed the duration of my visa and then I left. But I kept seeing this comment, Uhamba Nini. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Uhamba Nini, Uhamba Nini, Uhamba Nini. When people respond to my videos in a language that they know I don't speak, or I've not given any indication of speaking, I just think to myself, oh, they probably posted it for the benefit of somebody else. Like an inside joke, you know, like a Haitian person might say like, oh, gade mon blanc, something like that, right? And only other Haitian people are gonna know what they're saying, but you can still put it in a comment section. So I didn't really mind it. And then finally, yesterday, I was thinking to myself, I see this comment, Uhamba Nini, so much. And I finally looked it up and it means, when are you leaving? This has been a consistent comment I'm home. Like, I'm home. I'm posting my videos.
If you've ever wondered what it's like to visit South Africa for the first time, through the eyes of an African-American traveler, then you need to hear Michaella Henry's story. Her trip wasn't just a vacation. It was a life-changing experience. A joyful, surprising, heartwarming journey that completely shifted how she saw the continent and herself. Michaella Henry, a bright, adventurous woman from Atlanta, Georgia, decided to visit South Africa for the first time. Like many African Americans, she grew up hearing both myths and mystery about Africa. But she wanted to see it for herself, not through a screen, not through someone else's lens, but in real life. And what she discovered blew her away. From the moment she landed, Michaella said she felt something different in the air. Not just the sunshine or the wide-open landscapes, but something deeper. A sense of belonging, a kind of welcome that you don't always get when traveling. South Africans, she said, are the kind of people who can turn a stranger into a friend within minutes. One of the first things Michaella couldn't stop talking about was the food. She was shocked, in the best way. Whether she was eating street-side bunny chow in Durban, gourmet seafood in Cape Town, or a fresh Boerewors roll at a local market, it was always delicious, affordable, and fresh. She said, "You don't even realize how processed your food back home is until you eat in South Africa. Everything has flavor, and it's cooked with love." What stood out to her wasn't just traditional dishes, but how diverse the cuisine is. South Africa offers food from all over the world: Indian curries, Portuguese chicken, Italian pastas, Ethiopian injera, and somehow, it all feels local. She joked that the food alone was reason enough to come back. But beyond the food, Michaella was deeply moved by the people. She said South Africans have a happiness that's contagious. Not in a superficial way, but in the way they laugh, greet strangers, and celebrate the small things. Going out to a club or even just walking on the beach felt like being part of something bigger. She made friendships with locals that she says will last a lifetime. People who opened their homes, told her their stories, and reminded her what community can feel like. One of the most surprising moments of her trip, finding out that South Africa has penguins. Yes, penguins. Michaella visited Boulders Beach near Cape Town and was stunned to see hundreds of them waddling around in their tuxedo-like feathers, chilling on the sand like tourists. That's when she realized South Africa doesn't just meet expectations, it smashes them. And then there's the wildlife. Michaella took a safari trip and saw lions, elephants, rhinos, giraffes, you name it. But what stuck with her wasn't just the animals, but the way South Africans preserve and protect nature. The respect for the land. The pride in the country's natural beauty.